I want to share with you today what I consider one of the truly great revelations of all time. On Sunday morning, April 12th, my wife woke from what was really a deep, profound sleep. And as she was waking, a voice distinctly spoke to her. And the voice spoke to her, and the voice spoke with great authority, and it said to her, "You must stop spending your thoughts, your time, and your money. Everything in life must be an investment." So she quickly wrote it down and went straight to the dictionary to look up the two important words in the sentence, spending and investing. The dictionary defines spending as to waste, to squander, to lay out without return. To invest is to lay out for a purpose for which a profit is expected. Then I began to analyze the sentence. You must stop spending your thoughts, your time, and your money, for everything in life must be an investment. As I dwelt upon it, I saw where everything is now, that through the portals of the present all time must pass, and this psychological now. The state in which I find myself now does not recede into the past. It advances into my future. So, what I do now is the all-important thing, and thought is the coin of heaven. It is the money of heaven. And so the thought I entertain now, the thought to which I consent, as told us in Ephesians, all things when they are admitted are made manifest by the light, and all things when they are manifested are light. And the word light is defined as consciousness. So the state to which I now consent must be made manifest. And when it is manifest, it is only that state of consciousness made visible, coming to bear witness of the state in which I abided. So every moment of time, I am either spending or I am investing. Unfortunately, most of us spend the coin of heaven, and morning, noon, and night we live in negative states for which there is no return. And we could easily have not spent, but invested that moment. So at the end of that day, we really would have a wonderful portfolio. The religious-minded person invests possibly on Sunday morning. Through the service, he is lifted for a moment. If he is not overly critical, he might be carried away with the hymn. He might be carried away with the solo, the organ music, the address from the pulpit, and for a moment he is investing. But the rest of the week he spends. Now, you know from experience, if you put all your money into one great concern, it may be wonderful, it may be sound. But at the end of a year, the directors may decide to reorganize and therefore decide to pass the dividend. And if you depended on a dividend check for your daily needs, though it is a good, firm, wonderful concern, when they pass the dividend, then you must either sell some stock or raise or borrow on it, while every moment of time you could have a most marvelous portfolio. And if one passes a dividend check, it does not matter. If you devoted every moment of time to positive thinking, constructive thinking, by not accepting any rumor that does not contribute to the fulfillment of your desire, no matter what it is. It could be the most obvious fact in the world. If it does not contribute to the fulfillment of your dreams, do not accept it. If you do, you are spending. If not by denying, but by complete indifference, complete non-acceptance, you turn to what you wish you could have heard instead of what you heard, instead of what you heard. You are investing. It's not the hearing that matters. It's the admitting the truth of it that matters. All things when they're admitted, not all things when they are heard, but if you give consent to it, if you accept it as true, then you either spend by acceptance or you invest depending on the nature of the state accepted. So, this revelation which came through my wife to me is one of the greatest that I have heard. Had it been told in our Bible, it would have been told in its strange meter. And the Lord God spoke unto her this day, and said to her, his servant. And they would have told what revelation would have come in that matter. But it came to a normal, natural wife, came in a normal, natural manner to instruct not only her, but to instruct her husband. For I was the first one to whom she told it. And I can't tell you what it has done to me since I've heard. On the morning of the 2nd April, for it made me more aware of the moment, made me far more conscious of every moment of the day, so that I am not spending. I must invest. Time is too precious, and because these moments do not recede, they do not pass away. They're always advancing into my future to either confront me with a waste or to show me some wonderful return. If I invest, it's for a purpose, and therefore I hope, not only hope, I expect a reward. I expect a profit on my investment. So a moment spent now, this very day, could tomorrow pay you great dividends. Now, I told a story here 2 weeks ago of Jimmie Fuller. Well, I didn't have all the details of the story, but after the meeting. Dozens of you said to me, not only after the meeting that day, but after my meetings at the Ebell Theater, that Jimmie Fuller, to have made the fortune that he made, must have had great capital. Well, I could neither affirm nor deny your bold assertion. For you spoke as though you knew, and many of you almost convinced me that he had great capital. And that's why he turned it into great return. So on Friday night, I asked him to tell me more of the details. He said, when you came here 4 years ago, Neville, I came to hear you. My wife asked me, why do you come to hear Neville? Who told you of Neville? He said, I turned the radio on one night and I heard Dr. Bales. I had never heard of the man before. At the end of his lecture, which I thoroughly enjoyed, he said, Neville is coming to speak for us, and it's a must. Well, the next night, I so liked Dr. Bales that I turned him on the next night, and for the next 2 weeks, he kept on promoting you. And he was so generous in his praise, I thought, I've got to hear this man. So when I came, I enjoyed what I heard on Sunday morning, and then you announced you were speaking the following night at this place. But it was $2. Well, he said, between myself and the next, I actually had $54. I had a wife and a little boy. We couldn't leave the little child alone. He was a babe. It meant a sitter. And my wife and I came to everything you gave, and one night we could not pay the sitter. We just didn't have it, but we took our last, which was $54, and came to your every meeting, the two of us. And one night we didn't have it to pay that sitter. 3 years later, Neville, I had not proven your theory. You know my problem, as I told you before. Perchance there is someone here who did not hear it. The man is a Negro, and his problem was that because he was a Negro, all the marks and stripes of the world were against him. I tried to convince him it was only in his own mind that these stripes were placed. His acceptance of that as restriction made it restriction. But if he could only drop it by non-acceptance, by complete indifference to the pigment of skin, he could accomplish his every dream by acceptance of it. No. Well, in the last year, Jimmie Fuller, by complete acceptance, investing his moment, has turned the year into a net profit of $250,000. He did not have 1 penny when he started. He did not raise large capital. He didn't have it. He only invested God's coin. God gave it to him. He gave him the moment, which is time. So instead of spending his thought, which everyone has, and spending his time, which everyone has, he had no money. But he knew that thought was money. So he invested his thought in the now, knowing that it was not going to recede and vanish from sight. That was an investment. It would advance into his future. Well, it did. It's so advanced that he tells me now everything he touches turns to gold. Now he has 3 children. They come here every Sunday to Sunday through Sunday school. He doesn't want his children to start with his stripes. So he wants them to feel what this church gives. So every Sunday, Jimmy tells me many a Sunday he feels like taking off for the beach or up to the mountains with his wife, but he will not go because he wants his children to have an opportunity he didn't have. He says, my people were very religious, but they must have worshipped a very poor God, for they were steeped in poverty. So I just wouldn't go near the churches of my mother and my brothers and these people, because I couldn't conceive of such a God doing that to us. Yet they never miss service. For when I found in this, what I found here in the Science of Mind Church, I brought my children to Sunday school. Now this is what happened to them. Here God is love, and love surrounds them, and they know nothing but love, that God is love. For one day, my little girl, which is the youngest of the three, was quite sick, a beastly cold. And that night, when the little boys said their prayers, these are the words they used: thank you, God. That sister is perfect tomorrow. They could not look at the little girl, sick as she was, and say, thank you, God, that sister is well now. But they said, thank you, God, that sister is perfect tomorrow. Neville, it was a miracle. The next day, that child was perfect. There wasn't the sign of a cold. A complete absence of all that we saw the night before, and these two little brothers simply gave thanks. Now he wanted a watch. I wouldn't give him the watch. I could have bought 1,000 watches for him. I want my little son to learn a law which I didn't know until recently. So he filled his mind with the possession of a watch, and he spoke of the watch as a live watch, one that ticks, one that ticks, one that is alive, not a toy watch. So then he fills his mind with the possession of the watch. On his way to school, he found a live watch. Now he knows the working of law, that the complete acceptance of the state in consciousness must result in an externalization of the state accepted. So if he accepts the watch, he need not turn to his earthly father as the medium through which the watch will come. I don't want to think for 1 second he has to point to his mother or his father as the only channels through which his good will come. I want him to recognize an infinite Father, the Father of us all, who gave to him as he gave to me everything that I will accept. I want my children to learn it as I have learned. Yes, I could shower him with gifts, but then he would look to me as the only channel through which it will come, that I must not accept. So you should see the little boys and little girls actually live by this law. God to them is love, and the only reality, and love surrounds them. So they never miss the Sunday school here. Then he goes on to tell me all other wonderful things that have happened by the mere acceptance of this law. He said, the getting of my car, this convertible Cadillac, I treated it loosely. I sat quietly in my living room and drove my Cadillac. And I simply treated for this loosely. He said, I didn't put real effort into it. I accepted it, and then when I decided to get it, I simply put in 3 telephone calls, and that day I was driving this car, Neville. Neville. Now, everything happens just like that. Today, instead of going to my office and working in the office, I work behind the scenes. I sit all day and I hear the report that is good for my employees. My entire office staff must tell me good news. The only thing I would allow myself to hear. I ride my car. I'm in the office. I am at home. I'm in the office. But I am only hearing good news. And seldom do I go to the office physically to do office work. So I am behind the scenes only hearing good news. So I have completely forgotten the so-called pigment of skin and Neville. Honestly, I can tell you today, I feel that I am blessed beyond all men because I was born a Negro. I am so proud to be born a Negro. I am so proud to be born a Negro. Proud, I am one. And here is a story that will interest all of you. He said, I had some property to dispose of. I had certain things in investment for those who had money. And so I advertised it, and a man called me on the wire. He saw the ad and asked me if I was the gentleman. So I told him I was the one who had the property. The first thing he said to me, I don't want any nigger property. Jimmy said I didn't answer, as if I hadn't even heard the word. If he wants to be prejudiced, he may be prejudiced. That's his right. He wants to be silly about it. That's his right. He can spend. He need not invest. So I said, it is perfectly all right, sir. I have all kinds of property. I have all kinds of things for your investment. A week later, he called me up and said, would you come and see me? He said, I went to see him. When I got out of my car, his knees almost buckled, for he didn't know a Negro was coming to see him. And a Negro walked up the stairs into his living room. He said within a matter of minutes, he purchased 30. $7,000 worth of mine that I had to offer. He said the first $25,000 that he bought, he simply bought that to buy back his face. And then the remaining $12,000, he bought that because it was a very good investment. Well, since that time, this gentleman has spent tens of thousands of dollars with me and constantly calls me to thank me because they are such wonderful investments. Now, here is a man who is proud of his skin. He has no prejudices because that's spending his time. He can't afford to spend. So in harmony with the revelation given to my wife, let us all now stop spending our thoughts, our time, and our money. For everything in our life must be an investment. We know the truth. This platform radiates the truth. You are told that everything proceeds out of your own consciousness. But what you and you alone accept as true, that will externalize itself and mold itself in your environment. All the conditions that you will encounter will simply bear witness of the state you have accepted. Well, if you don't like what you are encountering, then stop spending and learn the art of investment, for every moment of time is an opportunity to invest, not to spend. Yet on the other hand, you and I are free. We are free to waste every coin in the world. For that we have a right. We are free beings. We can spend. We need not invest. But if you know you can invest, why not choose the wiser way? Now we are told in the 30th chapter of the book of Deuteronomy, the commandment I command you this day is not hidden, and it isn't far off. It's near unto thee. It is in thy mouth and in thy heart. Now I set before you this day life and good, death and good, death and evil, blessings and cursings. Choose life, choose blessing. But the choice is ours, for we are free. He sets before us this day, this very moment, a commandment. He sets everything before us. It's not far away, it's in our tongue right now. And before me now is a blessing or a curse. I can accept the fact you don't like me. It doesn't matter, you may love me. But if I accept the fact that you don't like me, don't like the teaching, I'm spending my time. Tomorrow you'll prove to me that I've spent my time by your behavior relative to me. On the other hand, if I accept the fact that you do like it because you are proving it, then I would have no doubt in my mind that you could not do anything other than contribute to this teaching. So it is up to me to either bless myself or curse myself. I can choose life, or I can choose death. I can choose the good, but I am free. I can choose the evil. It's entirely up to me. But if you and I love this, accept it, and believe it, then we are wise indeed if, knowing the whole is before us, we go out determined to become investors. Not spenders, not spenders, not spenders, not wasting and squandering our substance, but laying it out for a purpose. Every moment become conscious of the moment. What are you doing? I am accepting now the fact that I am a noble, dignified, wonderful being, that my Father is proud of the Son who is like him. So I will not hear or accept as true anything other than that which contributes to that noble concept. I will hold myself. For I will see that I am secure, and maybe a headline would startle the world, but I will not accept it. For if I don't admit to it, it can't proceed out of me. For all things, when they're admitted, are made manifest, not unless they're admitted. So if I now will admit that using this moment as my moment to invest, if I am what reason denies, what my senses deny, and I proceed in that assumption, knowing that even though it doesn't confirm itself tonight or tomorrow, I will still live in the assumption that I am what I want to be. They tune in and listen only for the good report. I know these are investments, and tomorrow these dividend checks must come. They must come. That's the law of our being. So everyone here, take it to heart. And though you don't need money, and so I say to the hundreds of you who say to me in private, he must have had money. I tell you, I know the story now. I didn't know it when you boldly claimed that he had money. But now I have it from the source. He only had $54, and the $54 he spent coming to my meetings, even when he couldn't spend $1 on a sitter in. So I tell you, he didn't have it. He has it today. But you don't need even 50. $4, all you need is time, and you have it. It's now. All you need is a thought. That's money. So instead of spending that now, and spending the thought in the now, invest it now. For your now, this very moment, as I stand here, and I will get off the platform in a little while. And you will think, well, now this is gone. He'll come back next year. This is not gone. What I am doing now is not going to slip away. It's going to move forward and embody itself as a condition, embody itself as the circumstance of my life, so that my nows, my reactions to what I'm hearing and saying and seeing, all of my reactions are in the now, and my reactions are spelling out my tomorrow. So I will repeat it through the doorway of now, because he said, I am the door. I am as always first person present. Not I was the door, or I will be the door. I am the door. I am the resurrection. So what I do in the present, now, is not going to recede. It is going to advance into my future, or through the door of the present, of the now. All time must pass. Now don't spend it as it passes. As it passes through the door of the now, invest it. Every moment of your life, see that it is a positive, constructive, noble moment. I promise you a wonderful, healthy, radiant future, if you will invest the now. Now, this being my last talk for a little while, I would like, while I have this opportunity, because the theater, the evil, can't take all of you. I hope that many of you will come this coming week and make it a really fruitful, wonderful week. But I know you can't all get into the e-bell. So here, one Wednesday as I came through the door said, Neville, you made it so clear on Friday night. Something I'd not seen before. For you told us this year, you brought a wonderful revelation, and that is the wide difference between thinking from an end and thinking of an end and thinking of an end. For you emphasized that time and time again since you've been here this time. But I didn't get it until Friday. I said, well, how did you get it? She said, your picture of the balcony and the stage. Well, now we have the same situation here. We have a balcony, so we have a stage. Well, if she, having heard it so often, didn't get it, the chances are many of you didn't get it. Well, now she got it by my illustration. So I will repeat the illustration that all may get it. I said that when a man learns the art of thinking from the end, that man is master of his fate. For he defines his end, he formulates an aim in life, and then feels himself right into the situation of that end. So he thinks from it instead of thinking of it. The average man defines his dreams, but he remains back here looking at them before he's thinking of them. The wise man occupies the state of his dreams, so he radiates from it, he thinks from it, And then to use this little illustration. I'm standing here looking out at the auditorium, and I would describe this theater based from this angle, for I am seeing it from the stage. You sitting in the auditorium or sitting in the balcony, you are looking at it from that state. So you would see the screen and the speaker. So the difference between us, we see the same theater from different angles. I would define it from here. You would define it from there. If I desire to get your point of view, while standing here, I would assume that I am seated where you are, and therefore within my imagination, look from that position. I would then have to see the stage, not the auditorium. I would see the thing behind me, this cyclorama, and I would describe the theater from that position, which I am assuming that I am. Now, if that position represents, say, one of security, and this one of insecurity, I would then assume, by physically standing here, assume that I am now secure. And to prove that I am, I would then look from the state of security. So I would describe the world relative to my assumption. If I am still seeing what I saw when I was insecure, I have not succeeded in occupying that desirable end. I'm still only thinking of it. So the wide difference between thinking from and thinking of must be clearly seen, and then see the wisdom in learning the art of thinking from a desired end. So here, look out at your world, formulate your lovely aims in life, and just ask yourself, what would it be like, were it true, that I now embody that state? How would I feel? And in response to that question would come a feeling that corresponds to that end. Learn then to think from that end, though reason denies it. Though everything denies it, you occupy that end. It's now you're investing it, and these will become real within your world. Now, another thought that I tried to make clear, and it's this, which again Jimmie Fuller told me was one of the cues in his success. When the action of the inner man corresponds to the action the outer man must take in order to appease his desire, he will definitely realize his desire. There are two of us. There is an inner man and an outer man. The outer man is always made to say, I of myself can do nothing. The Father within me, this inner one, he doeth the work. What I see him do, that I, the outer, do also. So there is an inner you. If I now sat here and immobilized my body by relaxing it, and then imagine what the outer would have to do in order to appease his desire, and with the outer relaxed, just let me imagine that I am actually it now. So I keep the body immobilized, but I keep the body immobilized. When I imagine that I am actually experiencing it now, I would experience in my imagination that which I would have to experience in the flesh to appease desire. And then imagine that state over and over and over, so that the actions of the inner man correspond to the actions the outer must take in order to realize desire. When that is done, I promise you, it's going to be done in the flesh. No power in the world could stop it when these two actions coincide. But let it always be from the inner you. And now, at the end of the silence, this is what we do. Knowing that any time that we exercise our imagination lovingly on behalf of another, we are actually and literally mediating God to man. So we can sit quietly in the darkness and simply listen as though we heard the good report that we want to hear. We look into the darkness and imagine we are seeing what we want to see. This is then investing this 2 minutes. We have taken the moments ago to make up 2 minutes and really are investing it now. So when I take the chair and the lights are lowered, let us listen and let us look as though we are hearing and seeing what we want to hear and seeing what we want to hear and see. And we are actually fulfilling the command of that wonderful voice that spoke to my wife when it said to her, you must stop spending your time, your thought, and your money. For everything in life must be an investment. Let these 2 minutes be your greatest investment. You know the story of Good Friday. A man is in a garden. It's nighttime. And one called Judas comes in search of him, seemingly to betray him. He comes into the garden, and it's dark. So he asks the simple question, where is Jesus? Then the voice in the dark answered, I am he. We are told in the story they all fell to the ground. When they regained their composure, they asked the same question, where is Jesus? Again the voice answered, I have told you that I am he. This time Judas kisses him, and the voice said to him, now that you have found me, let all else go. But do not let me go, and what you have to do quickly. Then Judas goes out and commits suicide. Now when you read the story, you might think that that drama took place in a garden. No. That drama must take place in the mind of man. For this is all about rebirth. It takes a man, a normal man, a man of sense. But hidden in that man and bound hand and foot is the second man that rebirth loosens and lifts up. And that second man is God. So the mystery is all self. And he uses the word mystery no less than 18 times. He asked those in the Corinthians to esteem him as a steward of mystery. Then he said, great is the mystery. God was manifest in the flesh. Then he spoke of the greatest of all mysteries, the one hidden from the foundation of the world. Christ in you is the hope of glory. Christ in you is the hope of glory. Not Christ in the pages of history, but God in man must be awakened. And this is the technique by which he is awakened. Now come closely with me, and let me take you into the garden of your own mind. Right now, just imagine you are in a sick room of some wonderful hospital or ward. You see the case history. You heard the verdict of the doctor, and the man seemingly is dying. What would save that man from such a verdict? What would save him? A state of health by which he would rise from that bed and become a normal, healthy person in this world. That would save him. Now look into your mind's eye and define carefully the solution of a particular problem. When you define the solution to the problem, do you know what you're actually seeing? You are seeing Jesus, for Jesus means to save. So the state that would save that man from what he is the state of health. That is his Savior. The story is, now that you have found me, let all else go. But do not let me go. In other words, let go everything you have ever believed, but do not let go this concept. That the man is well in spite of the evidence of your senses to the contrary. No matter what reason dictates, you hold on to Jesus, Jesus being that the man is healthy. You hold on to it, and you touch it by becoming intensely aware of it. That's the only way to touch a thing. Let me tell you of something that happened only last Friday. I have a friend in this city who I met recently, and he gave me a very sad story. He was up against it. He had borrowed money, and he can pay it back. Things are just going from bad to worse. While shaving, you don't have to go into some church to find him. While shaving, I thought of him, and I instantly, while in the act of shaving, imagine I was speaking to my wife, and I said to her, isn't it wonderful, the good news concerning George? Then I allowed her, in my imagination, to say, yes, isn't it wonderful? 3 hours later, he called me to tell me it's so good he doesn't know what really to take. He said that in the immediate present, too, wonderful jobs are offered to him. Jobs he can do and do well. Both great, and he doesn't know which one to take. Now, he has another problem. I will now assume that he has taken the right one, the best one. And I know that in the immediate future, George will again call me and tell me that, on reflection, he could not have chosen more wisely. So, you look into your own mind's eye and know exactly what you want in this world. When you know what you want in place of what you are, then you are seeing your Savior, your Jesus. The story is, don't let him go, but let all else go. Disengage yourself from the whole vast belief that you formerly entertained and hold on in your imagination to the concept that you are the man that you want to be. That will lead you toward Calvary. Calvary means fixing in your own mind's eye that state. And that will lead towards Easter, or this wonderful day that we speak of as the resurrection. For you will resurrect and make alive the state that began only as a concept. If you remain faithful to the concept, you will be led right into the fulfillment of that state. It is called, in the Bible, rebirth. Now, here is the story. He said, except you be born again, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. The wise man said, how is it possible? A man my age may once again enter my mother's womb and be born again. He said, you, a master of Israel, and you do not know. Except you be born of water and the Spirit, you can in no wise enter the kingdom of heaven. Then he gives this clue. As Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up. As Moses lifted up the serpent, you think a man lifted up a brazen serpent, as told in the story, and that everyone who looked on it was instantly healed, and those who would not look were not cured. It's not any serpent. A serpent is a symbol of the power of endless self-reproduction. For the serpent sheds its skin and yet does not die. Man must be like the serpent who grows and outgrows. So I must now learn the art of dying that I may live, rather than, I would say, killing that I may survive. I die by laying down all that I now believe, and I lift myself up to the belief that I am what I want to be. That's how I do it. Now, this is how a man is born of water and of the Spirit. If I told you now that an assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact, that is a truth. That is water, but water is not enough. You must catch the spirit of it and apply that truth. Well, if I know that if I assume that I am the man I want to be and persist in that assumption, I would gradually become that. If I have that knowledge, that's marvelous. But not to do it is to try to bring this being to birth by water only. We are told this is the one who came by water and the blood. Not by water only, but by water only, but by water and the blood. In other words, I have the knowledge, but I cannot bring to birth my ideal by bare knowledge. I must put it into action. I must do it. And when I do it, I take my Savior and I crystallize him by the doing. This is the story of our wonderful Easter. Today, our churches are bursting with new finally, but not bursting with new men. And we are told in the story, put on the Lord Jesus Christ. Put on the new man. Well, how will I put on a new man? It's like saying to the boy, put on manhood, or saying to the tree, put on foliage. It comes from within. Out, a man puts it on from the outside. You can put it on from the outside, for he is within you. For great is the mystery. The one hidden from the foundation of the earth. Christ in you is the hope of glory. Not some Christ external to yourself, but the one in you. That is your hope. That is your only glory. So, the great mystery is that at Bethlehem, God became as we are. That at Calvary, we may become as he is. And Calvary is the opportunity that comes very day in the life of a man. When you walk the earth and you see anyone in need, Ask yourself, what would be the solution to that individual's problem? Just what would it be? You can grant it. If you know who you really are, you can grant it, just as I granted it to George. I didn't raise one finger to get George a job. I didn't send him on a job. I didn't give him anything. I simply turned in my own mind's eye to my wife, who was not physically present, and simply stated, "Isn't it wonderful?" The news concerning George, and I allowed her to say, in my imagination, "Yes, isn't it wonderful?" And then I continue with my project of a simple shaping that is simply lifting up the serpent in the wilderness. For I raised myself from the knowledge that George was unemployed and struggling to the knowledge that he is employed. I did nothing more. I shed the skin like a serpent. I dropped off all that I formerly believed concerning George and began to live on a higher level concerning George. And I so lived it and so made it real that in 3 hours he called and gave me this exciting news. You can do the same thing with anything in this world. When you do it daily, you die daily. As the prophet said, I die daily. Man waits for some little event called death, and he thinks that is dying. That isn't really dying, for the simple reason that that kind of death does not bring about a transformation. For there is no transformation in a physical death, but there is transformation in mentally dying and dying daily. So, if you have learned the art of dying, you have learned the art of living. For man is immortal, and he must die endlessly. For life was a creative idea, and it will find itself only in changing form. If I do not change and grow and outgrow and grow and outgrow, then I know nothing of the mystery of Easter. For Easter is really the greatest of all mysteries. It's when man awakens within himself from his birth at Bethlehem, and he awakens as God. That's the story of Easter. So let us not perpetuate this thing by our finery, which is lovely. There is not a thing wrong with getting new clothes and new hats and all the lovely things in the world. But today it has become almost a parade of what is new rather than the new man. So when I put on the new man, I put him on by daily exercising him in this way. By becoming intensely aware, you could at this very moment extend your feelings and trust your touch and participate in all the flights of your imagination. And do not be afraid of your sensitivity. When I become intensely aware that I'm hearing what I want to hear, and I'm actually touching what I want to touch, virtue goes out of me, and the thing touched takes on the blessing which was determined by the mood that possessed me. As I imagined that I touched it, if I now touch anything, it must become crystallized in my world, bearing witness to the mood that possessed me at the moment that I touched it. So unless we be born of this knowledge and the application of this knowledge, we cannot enter this eternal state called the kingdom of heaven. So now you have a little of the knowledge. Go out and apply it. When you apply it, this is what happens, and this is the mystical fact. It was said of this one called Judah. Who is this one who comes with his garments dyed in the sap of wine, who takes his vestige and bathes it in the blood of grapes, and takes his colt and ties it to a choice vine, and his eye red with wine, and his teeth white with milk? You are told in the very last act, they placed a wine-colored robe upon Jesus. You are told that Judah took his robe and bathed it in the blood of grapes. Now, when I took what I did for George, I was actually weaving my wine-colored robe. I must weave that robe if I would awaken. It's called, in the Bible, the wedding garment, it is called the wine-colored robe. It is called the amethyst in the New Testament, the amethyst in the Old Testament. It's not an amethyst. It's not a robe I weave on the outside. But when I live a life according to these truths, I am actually weaving a wine, colored aura around my being, which then enables me to function consciously on higher levels of my own being. Without such a robe, I cannot function beyond my present physical state. But when I live this life according to these truths, you can see it with the physical eye. But I weave my robe, and those who have the eye open will see me as one of their own. And I'm not going to carry some little insignia to tell them who I am. I radiate who I am when they see my garment. So, when we are told, Judah comes and he takes his wonderful robe and he bathes it in the blood of grapes. It's not a man who takes off a robe, for the garment in the Bible is what a man wears mentally. So, if I take my mind and I apply it, actually all day long, but not confining it to one simple little thing, as I did for George, but in the course of a day, I have unnumbered opportunities to weave this wonderful robe by simply hearing good news for others. If I hear only good for others and trust what I hear as though I heard it, I am actually taking my robe and bathing it in the blood of grapes. You wonder why he called himself the vine. He said, I am the vine, and ye are the branches. Unless the branch be rooted in the vine, it has no life. For every man in the world is a branch rooted in me, the vine. And he ends in me as I am rooted in and end in God. Now that can be said of every man in the world. While you look at me and can hear me, you too can say it. Although I've just made the claim, you are rooted in me. You can claim that I am rooted in you and I end in you as you are rooted in and end in God. If you know it, then it is your duty to lift up every man in this world. Not one must be discarded. Everyone must be redeemed. And your life is the process by which this redemption is brought to pass. Discard no man. Every man can be changed. And you have the power to change him by taking the man and seeing him as he seemingly is and then asking what he would like to be instead of what he seems to be. When you know what he would like to be, then you imagine that he is that being already. Turn to a loved one and commune with a loved one concerning this man, just as though it were a fact. When you do it, trust it, touch it, and believe it. And I will tell you that man will become the embodiment of what you have imagined him to be. This is Easter, and Easter comes not once a year. Easter is a daily opportunity to simply die that you may live. For here it is said, if any man would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. Daily man. Well, how would I take up my cross and follow after this idea? First, I am told I must deny myself. Usually man thinks that means giving up something he loves, giving up the pleasures of the table, or giving up something of which he is especially fond. It has nothing to do with giving up external things. It is. A man must deny himself, and a man's true self is made up of the sum total of all that he believes, all that he accepts as true, all that he consents to. So, if I consent to a man dying, then I must deny that concept, that self, and put in its place the embodiment of a healthy being. When I do that, I can follow after this idea. You can take this principle and apply it to everything in this world. If it's not some tangible thing on earth you want, take some noble concept of a man. Take a man that you would love to see in this world. Dream of that man actually walking this earth and identify yourself with that man. Associate yourself in your own imagination with that as if you were he. When you actually feel that I am he, and continue in that state, then things begin to unfold, to bear witness to the truth of your assumption. You try it. So remember, Easter is the art of dying, that you may live. And this reminds me of that wonderful poem of the death of Abdullah and what he said at the end of it all. He appeared among all the mortals, and they were weeping and kissing his worn-out body. And he turned to them and said, I am not the thing you kiss. Cease your tears and let it lie. It was mine. It is not. Goodbye.